Hello everyone, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person this morning. Unfortunately I couldn't get the planets to line up. I've got some personal issues. I've got to have some surgery myself in the morning that couldn't be avoided. Speaking with Ron over the last couple of months, I was honoured when he had asked me to speak on this occasion. I've taken the time to write a few pages and I'd like to read to you. I was first introduced to Ron back in 1983 when my then sensei, Jack Ward, drove a group of students from the Kingswood Dojo to a training camp in Canberra that our chief instructor, Tom Slavin, was running. From that time on, Ron would continue to be a guiding light in almost every significant event in my martial arts career. As a child, I was lucky to have been surrounded by some of the world's best martial artists. My heroes literally lived just around the corner. I remember watching in awe as these men and women punched and kicked their way through timber, concrete, ice and even glass. I remember as if it were yesterday watching Ron's son Michael push timber arrows into the notch in Ron's neck to the point where they broke. I couldn't wait to find the nearest archery store. Tom Slavin was an instructor who pushed his students outside of their comfort zones, constantly looking for their breaking points. When I wasn't on the mat, I was glued to the TV watching hours of Betamax video of Ron and his contemporaries doing seemingly superhuman feats. Ron is one of only a handful of men in the world to have the focus, courage and self-control to pierce both his forearms with metal skewers and pick up a bucket of water with each arm. There was so much I could learn from this man. On August 29th of this year, I spoke with Ron over the phone as the date marked the 30th anniversary of my own third dan grading. I wanted to thank him personally for the impact he had on me at this time. The 100-man kumite was one of the most challenging tests in my life. The completion of the event was almost surreal when Ron presented me with his own black belt. It was both an honour and a tremendous responsibility to wear the belt of someone whom I had revered. It was a true act of humility on Ron's part. Ron always said that you define the belt doesn't define you, and he was right. Tameshawari, or test breaking, has always been an integral part of my martial arts research, and I learned from the world's best. I remember back in February 1999, chatting with Ron at my dojo in the Blue Mountains, when I mentioned that I wanted to do something significant to bring in the new millennium. As it was the year 2000, we came up with the idea of breaking 2,000 bricks in 2,000 seconds. I still haven't decided whether I should thank him or not. Reflecting back on our discussions throughout the planning phase, I remember Ron teaching me how to breathe under stress, how to keep my thoughts centred when doubts creep in, and how to focus on the brick in front and not the next one. In time, I would come to recognise these metaphors for life that he was teaching me. My friendship with Ron was not limited to the dojo. When I finished high school, I took on a part-time job with John Duncan Security Company. Leaving school and entering the workforce is daunting to any young man. Again, it was Ron who guided and supported me along the way, making the transition smooth. As he was a supervisor, my first few shifts were served alongside Ron. Often he had to remind me we were here to work and not to talk about karate. I remember running late to a shift at a site near Sydney Airport. Ron suggested I do 1,000 groin kicks behind a crib shed to help remind me of the importance of punctuality. I wasn't late again. Ron was a man of style, grace and poise. Yet when he needed it, he could summon up the strength required to break tiles, bricks and timber in front of his followers. These past few years, I was often faced with the dilemma of finding the right words at our events to suggest that at his age, it might be time to put breaking things behind him. That conversation quickly fell on deaf ears. Well into his 80s, he continued to test himself and amaze and inspire those of us around him. Always the practical joker, I remember at one of our events, Ron thought it would be a good idea to give someone a chocolate cake he'd secretly laced heavily with laxatives. When I asked him what motivated this, he responded, "He gave me the shits, so I thought I'd return the favour." Reflecting on his influences, Ron's real strength was not in his ability as a martial artist, but in his ability to relate to the students. That is the mark of a leader. He connected with those around him through his larrikin sense of humour, his genuine compassion for others and his ability to listen. As a teacher, I came to learn from Ron that the speed of my punch or the power of my kick might be important to me, but it would mean nothing to my students if I didn't show them that I cared. If Ron said he had your back, he meant it. He had integrity. I'm sure if Ron was sitting opposite me now, we would be planning the next class. He would want us to line up in ready position, take up a fighting stance and start kicking. That's how I shall honour his memory and ensure that his legacy and influence in martial arts continues. Good black belts started good white belts, he used to say. Rest in peace, Hanshi. I will miss you. Re.